Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today and being with us for this press conference. As you know, last week, a 20-year-old boy in the city of Redmond fell out a window and landed on a car that broke his fall so that he was able to live, and Dr. Johnston was able to take care of him medically. So our purpose here today is to make sure that parents know what they can do to be able to keep children safe. And we know that children fall out windows on a regular basis, and that's what we're trying to make sure doesn't happen in the future. We have about 5,000 children per year that fall out windows nationally, and Dr. Johnston will talk more about that. I'm going to talk to you about the idea that these are traumatic events for the families, for the neighbors, and for the first responders. And I know that for a fact because in 1950, before I was even born, way before I was born, my dad, who was a policeman in San Francisco, actually saw a baby up on a railing and decided to drive the police car as fast as possible to try to get the police car underneath that window. The baby did fall on the ground. Daddy got the baby, took it to the hospital, and had dispatch call the mom to say, your baby has fallen and is already at that point in the hospital because there was a policeman right there. And he still talks about this, and he's 95 years old. So I know for a fact that first responders are also people who are impacted by seeing something that is totally preventable. So we would like now first to hear from Dr. Johnston, who is the head of pediatrics for Harborview Hospital, and he's going to talk to us about the implications and how this could be prevented. Dr. Johnston.
Well, thank you very much, Councilmember Lambert, for organizing this event, and thanks to my colleagues in law enforcement and the fire service for making time to speak with you today. My name is Brian Johnston. I'm a professor of pediatrics at the University of Washington School of Medicine and chief of pediatrics at Harborview Medical Center. Every year, starting right about now, as the weather gets nicer, we start seeing children who have fallen from windows. In a typical summer, we're going to see 30, 40, even 50 or more of these young patients. These are toddlers, usually 2 or 3 years old, and the story is always the same. A young child gets access to an open window. Standing on the sill or on nearby furniture, he leans against the screen, and the screen pops out as it is designed to do, and the child falls onto the ground below. In many cases, parents or caregivers are in the same room, and they see this happen. They just don't recognize that the insect screens are not designed to keep children from falling. As Councilmember Lambert noted, these injuries can be devastating, and the emotional impact can be lifelong. But they are very much preventable events. And I think the first step is for parents to recognize that an open window is dangerous to small children. The insect screen is not going to protect your child. In fact, it may give you a false sense of security. We recommend that families keep windows closed if they can, and if they need to be open them from the top if they're double hung, or use window stops to limit the opening to 4 inches or less. You should move furniture and anything else climbable away from windows so that children can't get up to the sill. And then you can make your windows safer by installing window guards, which are sturdy bars that function like a stair gate to stop children from getting through the window. These are effective barriers, but they can be rather expensive. Less expensive are window stops. These are devices that are available online and in many hardware stores locally. The idea is to apply these to windows such that the sash can't be opened more than 4 inches. 4 inches will allow some ventilation, but a child won't be able to fall out. This is a typical window stop. I'll show you on the demonstration model beside me here how it works. Even a council member can do this. This is an operable window. So here's the screen. The idea is to stop the window from opening more than 4 inches so that a child won't fall out. All we have to do is adhere the window stop to the pane, push it on. It's very sturdy. Okay, a kid's not going to be able to pull that off, and yet the window won't open. One of the nice things about this, and it's important to remember, that windows are also important for fire escape in the event of a house fire. You need to be able to open the window as an adult And these are very easily defeated by adults. They just pop off if you know to lift the tab. Okay? Toddlers won't do that. You would need to install a safety device like this on every window to which your child has access. Okay, that includes all the openable windows in your home, but also think about where else your child spends time, maybe at grandma's house. Someday, I'd like to see our building code change so that we require the use of window fall prevention devices in the manufacturing of all windows. Fall prevention devices, window opening control devices, and safety screens are available, and if you're considering a remodel, perhaps you should look at that. Until then, we strongly urge parents to take steps to make their home and their windows safe for infants, toddlers, and young children.
Would you also talk about why this is better than putting a stick?
Sure, yeah, lots of people will be familiar with wooden dowels that they stick into the frame to stop the sash from being opened. Usually the purpose there is to stop people from opening from the outside. It's a crime deterrent. Toddlers are very clever. Most toddlers who are going to get into trouble around a window will grab that dowel and move it easily. Okay? The idea is to have something, again, that you can control that will stop the window from opening further than you want it to, but it's too hard for a toddler to defeat.
Our next speaker is our very own Undersheriff, Scott Summers, and he will share with us some of his insights.
I want to welcome you on behalf of Sheriff Mitzi Jo Hanknick. She could not be here, but I know she would like to be. This is a pretty important subject to her. I'm about 40 years into this job, and in law enforcement, as in the firefighting and EMS business, you see all the bad things that happen. And so what law enforcement's call is the safety and health of the community, that individual people, family members, and especially people that are most vulnerable. When you come across, and so we respond to things usually, not particularly a great way of doing things, but we try to come and help those when really bad things happen. Kids fall out of windows, especially where there's some distance. That's an ugly scene, folks. And so we do our best to provide aid, work with EMS to make sure that whatever child falls out is taken care of like we want our own children taken care of. So there's a lot we can do prevention-wise, right? So there's surprisingly few police officers and deputies and troopers in the world. I think the average citizen or resident of King County would be surprised at how few of us there really are. And so we depend on a concept called community policing to ensure the health and safety of the community. And it really goes off of what Robert Peel said, is that I'm just a member of the community that happens to be paid full-time to do a job which is a responsibility incumbent upon every member of the community. And so if we're going to put a dent into keeping kids safe this year and reducing the number of kids that fall out of windows, there's some assembly required. I mean, I think what happens in a lot of these cases, because we respond, we investigate, after we help the kids, is we find that neighbors or people in the nearby community see that, they're sitting there going, geez, I was nervous about it. I saw the kid pushing on the window different times, or maybe the screen had popped out before. And so as a good neighbor, you can go and say, hey, I'm concerned. I don't know if you watch the news, the number of kids that fall out of windows. Sometimes people are accepting of neighborly advice, sometimes they're not. If it's an ongoing issue and you have concerns that kids are going to fall out of windows, at least with the sheriff's office, and I think I can speak for the vast majority of police chiefs, fire chiefs in this county, call us and get us involved so we can prevent the bad things from happening, the having to respond to tragedies, and we keep the kids from going through lots of times what are fatal incidents, but certainly a lot of times lifelong injuries that impact their quality of life and ability to live life to the fullest. So some assembly required, and I want to thank you for being here to get the word out and being part of a initiative to try to reduce the number of kids that really should never have to go through some of the tragedy that my deputies, that I have seen in my career, and that my deputies are going to have to go to and respond to this year, along with the EMS people, our fire people, and guardian angels like the doctor here. So thank you on behalf of the Sheriff's Office, and I'm going to introduce my colleagues and friends from the fire department to come up and talk about this issue from their perspective, if they would.
Thank you, Councilmember Lambert and distinguished guests for having me here today. My name is Mark Carrera. I'm the fire chief for the city of Snoqualmie, and I'm a huge advocate of this type of program. 13% of all Snoqualmie residents are under the age of 5, and falls are a major hazard for this demographic. History of similar incidents over a period of 5 years in the city, we realized we were having 1 to 2 of these each year, and then one year we had a spike up to 4 or 5, and we realized that we needed to do something about this. We're a small community of 13,000 people, but as the community grew, we had a lot of kids falling out of these second floor windows. So we implemented a similar program to this. With window locks was part of our program. We also advocated with the residents about ways to keep their children safe. And we were successful with that. In fact, we were so successful that we haven't been on an incident since we actually implemented a program like this. So that's why I like to come out and advocate for these types of programs. The World Health Organization identifies falls as the leading cause of traumatic brain injuries in young children. Many of these kids that fall out of upper floors end up with traumatic brain injuries and these long-term devastating effects of that. Fortunately, in my community, a lot of these kids were falling from second-story windows into grass or into garden areas, so it was a softer landing, and fortunately not all of them had severe injuries. The point is that though these are preventable types of events. I strongly encourage parents and family members to familiarize themselves with prevention techniques such as supervision of your children, keeping furniture away from your windows, putting in window locks like this, making sure the windows are shut or open from the top. These are strategies that will greatly reduce these types of events and prevent these types of injuries and unnecessary suffering of the children in our community. And with that, I'll introduce Jeff Clark from the city, from Eastside Fire and Rescue.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep, sorry.
Hello, as he said, my name is Jeff Clark, and I'm the fire chief for Eastside Fire and Rescue, and we cover the areas of Issaquah, Sammamish, North Bend, and the unincorporated areas surrounding that. And you've heard how to prevent this. I want to bring up two other points. And first, I want to speak to the parents. As you see this on TV or you read about this in the paper, your first thought, from my experience from responding on calls, is that, oh, this won't happen to us. Complacency is the issue that really gets to people. And what I'd like you to hear from this press conference today is that this can happen to you. It has happened to somebody just like you. It's happened to a little child. Parenting is hard. But take action on this. This stop is really simple. It's really simple to order. If you can't afford one, please contact Eastside Fire and Rescue. We will help you acquire one. Acquire as many as you need for your home. And I'm confident that the fire departments, and as the undersheriff mentioned, that the police departments will be happy to help you. And then the second message is just simply the same as the first. Take action. We hear about these good things to do all the time. We're busy people, and we think, oh, we've got to get to that. This is the time of the year. This is when the weather's changing. We're responding on calls today. I'm sure it's happening somewhere in the country right now. Go out and take action and get this fixed today or tomorrow. And if you need help with it, contact us. And thank you very much, Kathy, for putting this together.
So this is a time of year when people are doing home projects and they're walking through their favorite hardware store, and they may or may not have known what these look like. So look for them in your favorite hardware store. And I know lots of us order things online. These are available online, so there's really no excuse for not doing the action that needs to be done to keep our kids safe. Bringing together lawmakers, doctors, medical professionals, as well as first responders is critical for taking this issue head on and making sure that parents are aware that they can prevent this. And we had some data earlier today at the Board of Health about it can happen in any demographic and any economic, and it's not parents who are being negligent. These little people are industrious, resourceful, and quick, and things can happen before you even know it. And one of the quotes that I like is that window screens are meant to keep bugs out, not children in. So don't rely on the window screens to do that. One of the things we also learned today in public health is in New York, they dropped from 217 children who had fallen out the windows down to 9. So we really want to see that kind of drop in these demographics so that we have our kids safe. And with that, we are ready to open up for any questions that you might have. Any questions?
What is the cost of that little
It's
device?
about $5. Do you remember exactly how much it was?
It was about, yeah, $5.95, I believe, for that particular model.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I paid $5.95. I bought several because I have lots of grandchildren. So there's a huge variety, some that screw into the window frame, and if you own your house, it's probably fine, but if you're a renter, you may not want to do that. As Dr. Johnston said, there are windows that come equipped with these kinds of things. They're more expensive, but this was about just a little less than $6. So making sure you get one for all the windows that children have access to is really important. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it, and I hope that next year we will be talking about this and saying, remember when the day used to be that kids fell out windows? Can you imagine that happening? It doesn't happen in King County. Thank you.